of books in society. This is the elephant in the room, and as we delve further, we will be exploring the necessity of books through a four-dimensional sphere, through the religious, the political, the economic, and the socio-cultural landscapes. But before kick-starting, what really is a book? Well, according to the Oxford Advanced Learners English Dictionary, a book refers to a set of printed pages put together in a cover, and you can pair them and read them together. Let us now explore the importance of books in the society. To begin with, the religious society has been significantly influenced by books, as books have shaped the religious society by establishing the human and divine institution of the church, and by shaping religious practices and beliefs through the book called the Bible. The importance of the Bible can be seen in Exodus chapter 31 verse 18 and in Deuteronomy chapter 9 verse 10, wherein on Mount Sinai, the Lord God wrote the Ten Commandments and gave to Moses for the people of Israel to be guided by. But ladies and gentlemen, we as Christians today live by those very Ten Commandments, as we do not steal, we do not kill, we do not lie, and we keep the Sabbath day holy. That is evidence that the Bible guides our lives even today. And of course, this book has established the human and divine institution of the church and her leaders, as we see in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 11 to 12. The leaders of the church being apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. Capacities which a majority of you in the room walk in. So that is evidence that books have shaped the religious society. But that isn't all. We move on to the political sphere. Ladies and gentlemen, Plato's The Republic, written in 375 BC, criticized corruption and advocated for the maintenance of justice and order in the Athenian society. But ladies and gentlemen, the last time I checked, we are in Cameroon, Africa, yet our judicial system maintains justice and order while constantly combating corruption. That is proof and evidence that the book guides our political sphere. Now, from the maintenance of justice and order to the acquisition and maintenance of power. By this, I mean the book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. In his book, he lays down laws to acquire and maintain power, with law number 1 being the most outstanding, which is never outshine the master. Ladies and gentlemen, when you watch public functions over the TV or you attend them, and you hear government officials or politicians constantly using the phrase, "We thank the head of state," "We thank the head of state," that is them applying Robert Greene's law number 1 to be able to maintain their position in power. And of course, politicians are nothing without their backbone, which is the military. Authors did not leave out the military. As Sun Tzu, the Chinese military strategist, wrote a book for military personnel titled The Art of War, wherein he lays down military strategies. And in the 21st century, we see militaries of many countries applying these laws and conquering territories, and they win wars. This is evidence that books have shaped our political society, as government officials, politicians, and military personnel can maintain power, combat corruption, and keep our society safe. Furthermore, the economic society has been significantly influenced by books, mentioning as a foundation The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, a Scottish philosopher who wrote the book in 1776. In his book, he lays down the foundation for modern economics. 3 laws: the law of demand and supply, the law of self-interest, and the law of competition. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have businessmen today staying afloat even in the midst of competition, it is because they are drawing from this timeless business manual. And if we have businessmen buying goods when demand is low to resell them at higher prices when demand is high, it is because they are consulting from this business manual. And of course, that isn't all in the economic sphere, as Karl Marx wrote a book in 1848, co-authored by Friedrich Engels, a book titled The Communist Manifesto. And in his book, he advocates for a stateless and a classless communist society. He encourages employees to not work under harsh working conditions and to go out and build for themselves. So if we have entrepreneurship thriving in our society today, it is because of a book called The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. To end with, our sociocultural landscape has been reflected and shaped by books as well. As a gentleman known as the greatest writer of all times, William Shakespeare introduces to us a new lens through which we can look at life by, which is culture, love, and romance. Ladies and gentlemen, if our partners can go to any length because they love us, it is because of his book, Romeo and Juliet, wherein the two lead characters die for love. And if we have the existence of spoken word artists, poetry authors, and dramatists, it is because they were inspired by his poems, which express and showcase culture and love. Ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, books are more than just written words, as they are catalysts for change, repositories for knowledge, and mirrors of our collective human experiences. So to be an excelling woman, you have to understand the importance of reading in the society. But it doesn't end there. You have to understand the reading, the importance of reading to you as an individual and as a lady. This, which will be spoken about tomorrow. Thank you very much.